Fate has a way of balancing the scales, and no one escapes the weight of their own intentions. Those who throw thorns in your path will one day walk barefoot on their own destruction. It's the oldest law of existence. What you give, you get back, multiplied. The universe doesn't play favorites, but it does reward resilience and chosen ones. That's why no matter how hard they try to break you, they end up breaking themselves instead. They set traps, thinking they're architects of your downfall, only to realize they were building their own downfall brick by brick. You've seen it before. People who secretly root for your failure, who laugh when you stumble, who whisper behind your back, hoping the echoes of their jealousy will somehow weaken you. But the irony is, every insult they hurl, every sabotage they attempt, fuels your fire. They think they're orchestrating your collapse, but all they're really doing is sharpening the very blade of your success. That's the curse of opposing a chosen one. The harder they fight against you, the more they exhaust themselves, while you rise untouched, like a storm that only grows stronger against the wind. They can't figure it out. Why doesn't their hate shake you? Why do you keep thriving while they're stuck in the same cycle of bitterness? It's because your path isn't dictated by their opinions. The more they fixate on your downfall, the deeper they sink into their own abyss. What they fail to realize is that their obsession with you is their own undoing. Meanwhile, you keep moving, keep winning, keep evolving beyond their reach. And that's the true power of being chosen. You don't just survive, you haunt them. Your presence lingers in their minds, not as a memory, but as a reminder of what they could never become. They wanted to see you fail, but now they can't look away as you succeed. They tried to bury you, but they only planted you deeper into your purpose. And if you know deep down that you're not meant to blend in, but to rise above, subscribe now. This is just the beginning. Something about you unsettles them. They can't figure you out, and that drives them mad. You walk into a room, and suddenly their confidence wavers, their masks slip, their words fumble. Why? Because you don't fit their expectations. You shatter them. But here's the truth. The more they obsess over trying to define you, the more they lose themselves. This message isn't for everyone, but if you've ever felt like an enigma in a world that craves predictability, you're exactly where you need to be. Before we go deeper, do 3 things. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop "I am a mystery" in the comments. This isn't just engagement, it's a declaration. A signal to the world that you embrace the power of being misunderstood. Stay until the end, because once you hear what's coming next, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Let's get into it. Number 1, stop ignoring the energy shift. Master the power you carry. There's something about you that makes people pause. They feel it before they even realize it. The shift in the air, the unspoken weight of your presence. It's not arrogance, not ego, not even effort. It's something deeper, something they can't quite name, and that's exactly why it keeps them awake at night. You move through the world like an unanswered question, a riddle they desperately want to solve, but never can. And that drives them mad. You don't seek attention, it gravitates toward you. You don't demand respect, it lingers in the silence after you've spoken. While others scramble for validation, you exist with a certainty that shakes them to their core. They can't figure out if they should admire you, fear you, or convince themselves you're overrated. But the truth is, their confusion has nothing to do with you. It's about them. It's about what your presence forces them to confront within themselves. People are used to placing others in neat little boxes, defining them within seconds of meeting them. It makes them feel in control, like they have the world figured out. But then there's you. You defy labels. You refuse to be predictable. You walk in, and suddenly their assumptions crumble. They don't know where to place you, what to make of you, how to read you. And that uncertainty eats at them. They don't just meet you, they experience you. Some will mistake your quiet confidence for arrogance, because it's easier to believe you think too highly of yourself than to admit their own insecurity. Others will try to shrink you down to something more familiar, something easier to handle, because the unknown terrifies them. And then there are those who will simply watch from a distance, drawn in by something they can't explain, but too unsettled to get closer. You don't play by the usual rules of social dynamics. Most people believe power has to be loud, that influence must be forceful. But your power is different. It's in your stillness, in the way you don't need to prove anything. You're not out here trying to impress anyone, and that's exactly what makes you unforgettable. Your confidence doesn't scream. It lingers, like an echo in their minds long after you've left the room. They wonder how someone can be so composed, so assured, without needing constant reassurance. They study you, analyze you, trying to pinpoint what makes you different. But the harder they try, the more elusive you become. That's the paradox of your presence. You draw them in, but keep them guessing, making them question what they thought they knew about power, attraction, and influence. And the best part, you don't even do it on purpose. You just exist, and that alone is enough to leave them restless. They want to decode you, define you, categorize you, but deep down, they know the truth. You're a mystery they'll never solve. Number 2, don't let their insecurities become your burden. Learn to reflect without absorbing chosen ones. You don't just exist, you expose. Not by words, not by force, but simply by being. You walk into a room, and without meaning to, you hold up a mirror so sharp and clear that people see themselves in ways they were never prepared for. And that terrifies them. It's not that you try to make them uncomfortable. You don't go around pointing out their weaknesses or dissecting their insecurities. But something about you, the way you move, the way you think, the way you carry yourself, forces them to confront truths they've spent years burying. You remind them of the potential they've ignored, the dreams they abandoned, the confidence they fake, and deep down, they know it. This is why their reactions to you are so unpredictable. Some will admire you, drawn to the authenticity they wish they had. They'll watch from a distance, trying to understand how you carry yourself so effortlessly while they struggle under the weight of their own masks. Others will attack, not because you've wronged them, but because your presence alone exposes the cracks in their carefully crafted facades. To them, it's easier to tear you down than to face the reality that they've been lying to themselves. And then there are those who cling to you, hoping that by standing close, they can absorb your essence, borrow your energy, steal your clarity. They see you as a key to their own escape, but what they fail to realize is that no one can be saved unless they choose to save themselves. You are not their crutch. You are a force of nature, and forces of nature do not exist to carry the weight of those unwilling to move. Understand this. When people react to you with hostility, avoidance, or obsession, they are not truly reacting to you. They are reacting to the reflection you force them to see. They are running from themselves. Most people aren't ready to face what's hidden beneath the surface, and the truth is, some never will. But that is not your burden to carry. You were never meant to shrink so that others can remain comfortable. You were never meant to soften your presence so that they could continue living in denial. You are chosen, and chosen ones do not dim their light for those who are afraid of the truth. Number 3, break free from their limiting rules. Succeed on your own terms. Your success was never meant to follow their blueprint. While they cling to outdated formulas, grinding away in predictable cycles, you move differently. You don't just play outside the system, you break it. You defy the logic they were taught, sidestep the limitations they swear by, and rewrite the rules they thought were unbreakable. And that terrifies them. They don't understand how you keep advancing, how you open doors they didn't even know existed. To them, success is supposed to be a slow, painful climb, measured, calculated, and methodical. But you move like water, flowing past obstacles with an effortless grace that makes them uneasy. It's not that you don't work hard, it's that your efforts don't look like theirs. While they fight for approval, chase external validation, and follow step-by-step formulas, you operate on something entirely different. Call it intuition, call it alignment, call it mastery. But whatever it is, it's beyond their comprehension. They search for explanations. Some will say you got lucky because it's easier than admitting they've been following a broken system. Others will convince themselves you had an unfair advantage because the idea that success can be approached differently shakes their entire worldview. But the real reason? You refuse to be confined by their invisible chains. You don't wait for permission. You don't seek validation. You move with purpose, knowing the path ahead bends to those who dare to walk their own way. They stare, confused, as you break barriers they thought were impenetrable. You see opportunity where they see limitations. You trust instincts they would ignore. You embrace risks they would never take. And because of that, you keep rising while they remain stuck, watching from the sidelines. Some will be inspired, trying to decode the secret behind your success. Others will resent you, not because you've done anything to them, but because your existence is proof that their rigid mindset was never necessary in the first place. But here's the irony. They'll never truly understand you because they don't want to. Admitting that you've figured out something they haven't means facing the uncomfortable truth that they might have been wrong all along. And for some, that's too much to bear. So they'll keep questioning, keep doubting, and keep underestimating while you keep winning. Let them be confused. Let them struggle to define what they can't control. You were never meant to follow their rules. You were meant to show them they never really mattered in the first place. Number 4, reject the chains of conformity. Embrace the power of unpredictability. You were never built to blend in. While the world moves in predictable loops, clinging to routines that make them feel safe, you exist outside their blueprint. And that terrifies them. Society thrives on unspoken agreements. Follow the script, stay in line, don't question the rules. Most people comply because it gives them the illusion of control, the comfort of knowing what comes next. But then there's you, the chosen one, the one who doesn't just step outside the lines, but erases them altogether. You don't rebel for the sake of rebellion. You don't break rules just to prove a point. You simply refuse to follow anything that doesn't make sense to you. While they accept things as they are, you ask, why? Who decided this? And why should I follow? That single question alone is enough to make them panic. Because if the rules they've built their lives around can be questioned, maybe they were never real to begin with. Your existence forces people to confront the limits they've placed on themselves. They watch as you navigate life without fear, making choices they wouldn't dare to make, choosing passion over practicality, walking away from traditions that don't serve you, rejecting the pressure to be like everyone else. They resent you for it, not because you're wrong, but because you make them wonder if they are. People who live in the safety of structure don't just dislike non-conformity, they fear it. Because if someone like you can succeed outside the system, What does that say about their sacrifices? The years they spent doing what they were told, following the right path, chasing approval. Was it all for nothing? That's a truth most aren't ready to face, so instead, they turn you into the problem. They call you reckless, difficult, unrealistic. But deep down, they envy your courage. When you refuse to conform, you become a threat, not because you attack the system, but because you prove it's not the only way. Your existence is a quiet revolution, a reminder that life isn't about fitting into their version of success. It's about creating your own. And whether they admit it or not, that changes everything. Number 5. Stop softening the truth. Own your voice, even when they fear it. Your words aren't just sounds in the air, they're weapons of clarity. When you speak, it's like slicing through the fog, exposing everything people desperately try to keep hidden. You don't dress up reality to make it comfortable. You don't soften the edges to spare fragile egos. No, when you speak, the truth lands with the force of a reckoning. And for those who have built their lives on illusions, it's a nightmare they weren't prepared for. People claim they want honesty, but what they truly crave is validation. They want truths that align with their carefully curated reality, not the raw, unfiltered mirror you hold up to them. Your words aren't designed to comfort, they're designed to awaken, and that's why they fear you. Because when you speak, you leave no room for deception, not even the lies they tell themselves. They don't know what to do with someone like you. You don't manipulate, you don't sugarcoat, you don't pretend. You force them to confront what they've buried deep within. That's why your presence alone is enough to make some uneasy. It's not you they dislike. It's the reflection of themselves they see in your truth. Some will cling to your words, knowing that your brutal honesty is exactly what they need. They'll respect you for saying what no one else dares to. They'll recognize that truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is the foundation of real growth. These people will grow stronger in your presence because they face the storm instead of running from it. But others? They'll fight against you. They'll call you harsh, insensitive, too much. Not because you are, but because you threaten their delusions. They will twist your words, paint you as the villain, all to avoid facing the discomfort of their own reality. But make no mistake, the more they resist your truth, the more trapped they become in their own lies. And here's what they fail to realize. Truth does not require permission. It does not wait for readiness. It simply arrives, whether they're prepared for it or not. And when it does, it shakes the very foundations they stand on. You, chosen one, are a walking earthquake, and those who fear the tremor will always try to silence the fault line. But the truth is relentless, and so are you. Number 6. Escape the trap of trends. Cultivate a timeless presence. They chase trends like desperate wanderers chasing a mirage, forever running, never arriving. But you stand still, unmoved, watching them exhaust themselves in a race that leads nowhere. While they swap identities with every passing fad, you remain a constant, unshaken force. The world bends and reshapes itself to please the masses. But you shape the world by refusing to change for it. You don't reject change, you just refuse to be controlled by it. While they scramble to be the first to wear the latest fashion, repeat the latest slang, or follow whatever temporary craze is being force-fed to the masses, you are rooted in something deeper. Trends fade, people forget. But what you bring, it lingers. You don't demand attention, yet you get it. Not because you follow the crowd, but because you remind them of something they've lost. The ability to exist without seeking validation. They don't understand it. How can someone be so relevant without trying? How do you hold presence without needing an audience? It's because your presence isn't based on fleeting applause. It's built on something stronger. There's a wisdom in the way you move, an old knowing that radiates through your words, your choices, your very existence. As if you've tapped into something beyond the noise, beyond the shallow currents of what's popular today and forgotten tomorrow. They will mock you for not following the trends, only to realize later that you never needed to. Because while they are discarded with yesterday's hashtags, you are still standing, unshaken, unmoved. They will look back and see that while they were busy chasing the temporary, you were building something permanent, and that terrifies them. You are not here for the moment, you are here for the legacy. You don't measure success by likes or trends because you know true value isn't found in what's viral, but in what lasts. They are noise, you are the echo. They are a moment, you are history. That's why they can't understand you. That's why they can't forget you. Because you are timeless in a world terrified of being forgotten. Number 7. Don't suppress your depth. Harness the strength in feeling everything. Most people skim the surface of life, avoiding the depths where truth, pain, and wisdom reside. But you dive in, unafraid of the unknown, unshaken by what you might find. While they numb themselves with distractions, you embrace the full spectrum of existence. Joy so deep, it feels like the universe itself is celebrating. Sorrow so profound it reshapes you, and silence so powerful it speaks louder than words. This is what makes you different. This is what makes you chosen. They don't understand you, and that terrifies them. In a world that rewards emotional detachment, you refuse to play along. You feel everything, not just for yourself, but for those around you. When you listen, it's not just with your ears, it's with your soul. You pick up on the emotions they don't even know they're hiding, the cracks in their voice, the weight in their silence. It's as if you see right through them, past the facades, straight into the truths they're too afraid to face. Some find this comforting, even healing. Others find it unbearable. People call you too intense because they can't comprehend what it means to actually live fully. They think your depth is a weakness because they've spent their whole lives running from their own emotions. But here's what they don't realize. Your depth is your power. While they stay trapped in a cycle of avoidance, you transform with every emotion, growing stronger, wiser, and more unshakable with each experience. And that's what makes you a mystery they can't solve. They expect strength to look like cold detachment, but yours is different. Your strength isn't in shutting yourself off. It's in your ability to feel everything and still stand tall. To endure pain without being broken. To understand sorrow without being consumed by it. To love deeply without fear. They don't know what to think of you because you defy their idea of resilience. While they avoid the chaos of emotions, you walk straight into it, finding meaning where they see only suffering. You are a paradox, both storm and calm, both depth and clarity. They fear you because your existence exposes their own emotional limitations. They envy you because deep down, they wish they had your courage. And that's why they'll never figure you out. You don't just survive, you thrive in places they're too afraid to explore. Number 8. Quit trying to fit in. You were never meant to be defined. People cling to labels like a lifeline. It makes life easier, simpler. If they can categorize you, they think they can control you. They want to slap a definition on you, box you in, reduce you to something predictable, something that fits neatly into their understanding of the world. But you refuse to be contained. You are a contradiction they can't solve, a paradox that slips through their grasp every time they think they've figured you out. And that drives them insane. One moment, You are a force of independence, untouchable, unshakable, impossible to hold down. The next, you are deeply connected, reading people in ways that make them wonder if you see into their very souls. You are serious when needed, yet unpredictable enough to throw them off balance. They try to define you as one thing, only for you to reveal another layer they never expected. They don't realize you were never meant to be just one thing. You are both and more. This unsettles them. People want patterns, formulas, predictable behavior. They need to feel like they understand who and what they're dealing with. But you are a puzzle with missing pieces. A book they can't skim through and summarize in a single sentence. They watch you, analyze you, trying to pinpoint your core, only to realize there isn't just one version of you. You exist in shades, in layers, in depths they can't comprehend. Some will call you inconsistent. Others will accuse you of being hard to read. But the truth is, you're not confusing. They are simply uncomfortable with complexity. You don't follow trends, but you don't rebel against them either. You don't try to be different. You just are. And that natural defiance against being labeled makes you an anomaly, something rare, something unforgettable. Your very existence forces people to question their need to categorize, to limit, to define. Because if you can exist outside the rules, outside the lines they've spent their whole lives trying to color inside, then what does that say about them? If you don't need a label, maybe, just maybe, they don't either. But that kind of freedom is terrifying to those who have spent their lives desperately trying to fit in. You are living proof that power comes from embracing complexity, not simplifying it. And that's why you haunt their minds long after you've left the room. Number 9. Stop seeking permission to disrupt. Your existence alone challenges the system. You don't have to scream, you don't have to argue, and you don't have to force a revolution, because your very existence is the revolution. Chosen ones, you walk through life without bending to the rules designed to keep others in line, and that alone is enough to disrupt the entire system. You don't challenge the status quo by fighting it head-on. No, you do something far more dangerous. You ignore it. While others scramble to fit in, to play the game, to mold themselves into whatever is expected of them, you do the unthinkable. You refuse to participate. You live by your own rhythm, guided by instincts they don't understand, following a blueprint they've never seen. And that terrifies them. Society thrives on predictability, on people playing their assigned roles without question. But you're the glitch in the system, the one who doesn't conform, the one who doesn't seek validation. That's why people don't know what to make of you. You expose the cracks in their way of life just by existing outside of it. Your silence is louder than their noise. Your restraint is more powerful than their desperate need for attention. While they perform for approval, you stand firm in who you are, and that shakes them to their core. They wonder why you don't chase after the same things they do, why you don't react the way they expect, why their rules don't seem to apply to you. And that's because you live by a different set of principles, ones they can't comprehend. Your path isn't dictated by society's expectations. It's carved by something far greater, something untouchable. The most unsettling thing about you make people question themselves. Without trying, you force them to look at their lives and wonder if they've been living a lie. You make them doubt the systems they've blindly followed, the limitations they've accepted, the compromises they've made just to fit in. And that realization is terrifying. That's why they either fear you, admire you, or try to bring you down. Because in a world where most people are desperate to belong, You stand as proof that true power lies in belonging to yourself. You don't have to fit in. You were never meant to. Number 10. Beware of the obsession you create. Not everyone deserves access to you. There's no such thing as neutrality when it comes to you. People don't just see you, they feel you. Your presence is a force that demands attention, whether you intend it to or not. And that's why they either worship you or despise you with every fiber of their being. You don't just attract admiration, you create obsession. Some people are drawn to you like moths to a flame, mesmerized by your confidence, your authenticity, your refusal to shrink. They study you, analyze you, try to absorb whatever it is that makes you so different. To them, you are the embodiment of everything they wish they could be. And then there are the others, the ones who can't stand the way you exist so freely. They are just as fixated, but their fascination is laced with resentment. Instead of admiration, they choose criticism. Instead of learning from you, they look for flaws, desperately searching for a reason to tear you down. They don't hate you because you've wronged them. They hate you because your existence alone exposes them. It reminds them of everything they are not. You are a mirror they never asked to look into, reflecting their weaknesses, their insecurities, their lack of courage. And rather than face those truths, they lash out. They disguise their envy as judgment, their fascination as resentment. But the irony, the more they try to diminish you, the more power they give you. They don't realize that by fixating on you, they are feeding the very energy they claim to despise. And here's what they don't understand. You never asked for this. You don't seek validation from admirers or acknowledgement from critics. You simply exist, unapologetically, and that alone is enough to drive them mad. While they waste their energy dissecting your every move, you continue evolving, untouched by their opinions. Yes, being the center of such extreme attention can be exhausting. You are either placed on a pedestal or dragged into unnecessary battles, never given space to simply be. But this is the cost of true presence. Some people live their entire lives unnoticed, blending into the background. That will never be you. Whether they love you or hate you, they can't forget you. And in a world obsessed with attention, your true power isn't in being liked, it's in being unforgettable. Number 11. Strength. Without vulnerability is weakness. Balance both and become unshakable. You are the paradox they can't comprehend, the perfect contradiction that leaves them uneasy. They've been taught that strength is about control, about dominance, about never showing a crack. But then there's you, a force so powerful that it doesn't have to shout, a presence so undeniable that it doesn't have to seek approval. You are strong in a way that doesn't fit their definition, and that's what haunts them. Most people believe strength is about having walls, thick, impenetrable, guarded. They think power means being untouchable, emotionally distant, impossible to read. But you shatter that illusion. You walk with an open heart, unafraid to let the world see you as you are, flaws, scars, and all. And that terrifies them, because real strength isn't about being invincible. It's about being untamed, unbroken, and unapologetically real. They don't know how to deal with someone who refuses to play the game of pretense. While they hide behind masks of perfection, you wear your truth like armor. They mistake your openness for weakness, thinking vulnerability is something to be avoided, something that makes a person fragile. But you know the truth. The strongest ones are those who don't need to hide, the ones who can stand in their pain and still move forward. You are not cold, yet you are unshaken. You are not cruel, yet you are unstoppable. You can carry the weight of your struggles and still walk with your head high. That balance is rare, and it disturbs them. How can someone be both powerful and kind, both untouchable and deeply connected? They will never understand that it is not despite your vulnerability that you are strong, but because of it. You don't use power as a weapon. You don't need to manipulate, intimidate, or pretend to be something you're not. Your strength is in your presence, in your ability to stand tall, even when life tries to break you. And that, chosen one, is why you leave them speechless. They expected someone like you to fall, to break, to retreat into the shadows. But instead you rise again and again, proving that true power is not in the illusion of invincibility, but in the courage to be undeniably, unshakably real. Number 12. Don't get caught in their stories. Write your own without apology. Most people see the world through a lens that centers on themselves. They are the protagonists in their own carefully crafted narratives, where everyone they meet is just a supporting character in their personal storyline. But then there's you, and you disrupt everything. You don't fit into their script. You aren't predictable. You don't play a role they recognize, and you refuse to conform to their expectations. This disturbs them, not because you threaten them directly, but because you remind them of something they've spent their entire lives avoiding. The world is bigger than their limited perspective. Your existence alone forces them to confront an unsettling truth, that life isn't as simple, as linear, or as self-centered as they'd like to believe. You don't bend to the plot points they understand. You don't follow the same sequence they were taught to expect. Instead, you stand just outside their reach, an enigma they can't categorize, a presence they can't define, a force they can't ignore, and that terrifies them. They can't figure out how to deal with someone who doesn't fit into their world neatly. They can't place you into a box, label you, or predict your next move. You linger in their minds, not as a person, but as a question, one they don't have an answer for. You force them to reconsider the rules they live by, the limitations they've accepted, and the boundaries they thought were unbreakable. You weren't born to fit into someone else's version of reality. You weren't made to be a supporting role in another person's movie. You are your own story, one that doesn't follow the tired, recycled narratives of those who cling to comfort zones and expectations. This is why they watch you so closely. Some admire you, trying to decode the secret of your self-possession. Others resent you, hating the fact that your very presence exposes the smallness of their thinking. But no matter what, none of them can ignore you.